Hey, everybody, welcome back to another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show, where we make it our business to help you take dominion over your money and your life. We are excited to have you back here with us for another episode of the show, one that's going to impact you greatly, I'm sure. Absolutely sure of it. So I want to make sure that you got some pen, some paper, or you got your notes app open because there's going to be lots of jewels dropped your way. And we don't want you to miss not one of them. Hey, and if you know that there's somebody that needs to hear this information that you're going to get today, do us a favor and share it. Put it on your social media, put it in your IG stories, tag us at His and Her Money so that we can show you some love back. So, guys, I am excited about today's episode because one of the people that I look up to the most is my special guest today. He is back. It's been a couple of years since he's been on the show, and we are excited to have him back because he has some great new information to share with you and to share with us on today. I'm talking about none other than Pastor Touré Roberts, and he has a phenomenal new literary work out very soon called Balance. Oh, that word is something we all are striving for, and he has taken some time to really help us all navigate to this place. Oh, I just gave some of the content away. It's a place, but we're going to get there. Hold on, pump the brakes. We're going to get there. So, guys, I want you to get ready because you're about to learn some great insight from a great person. So let's not delay this any further. Let's get Pastor Touré on so we can hear all of his great insight and knowledge on the matter. Hey, Pastor Touré, welcome back to the His and Her Money Show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the great work that you and your bride are doing in enlightening our people, all people, and to the power of taking control of their wealth. And I just appreciate all that you guys are doing, the insight, the wisdom. You're doing it in excellence, and it's an honor to be on the show.
We're excited to have you back. Last time you took us on a journey to becoming whole with your last book, Wholeness. And now you're here with a brand new work called Balance. But before we jump into what you have to share with us, some people may be introduced to you for the very first time right here and right now. So for them, could you take a moment just to introduce yourself to them and let everybody that's listening know what you are all about?
Certainly, I appreciate that. Well, I've been honored and fortunate enough to write books, and my platform is a church. I pastor a church called One. We're affiliated with the Potter's House. My spiritual father is Bishop T.D. Jakes, and I planted the church. It's recently affiliated with the Potter's House. I planted the church almost 20 years ago. It grew, evolved, and from that platform, I've been able to really touch and reach a lot of people, particularly online. And I've also been able to set aside time because of my great staff at those organizations to write books that have done well and are changing lives. And so at the end of the day, I'm just fortunate enough to be a voice that God is using to help people become everything that God's created them to be.
Absolutely. And so that's the subtitle of the book almost, right? It's called Balance, but it's I want to say it right, positioning yourself to do all things well. Now that's loaded right there because I think that is a word, a phrase that many people have on their minds and on their hearts. They just don't know how to make it their reality. So for you, before you took pen to paper or sat down at your laptop, what made you want to go on this journey for yourself to help others go on the same journey?
Well, I came to realize that I actually had two bests. Two bests. What do you mean you have two bests? I noticed that there was a version of me that had a certain capacity, and that capacity was passable, and that capacity was okay. But then there were times where I was aligned in a particular way where I had another level of capacity, a secondary best that was beyond where I normally lived. And then I also noticed that there was a formula to getting to that best, to realizing that best. And I came to a place where I no longer wanted to be that lesser best. I know it's a lot, but I realized, wait, I can actually function at a higher capacity. And this is available to me if I will work certain steps and work certain disciplines. And I came to a place to where I no longer wanted to live in imbalance, because I realized in doing so, I was offering everyone around me less than my actual best. And so I worked this, I lived this, and I decided to write about it. And I believe that people are going to be shocked to learn that balance isn't what they think it is.
Yeah, I was. To be honest, I'll just be like totally transparent because I know I can be, and I know that you're correct, and you corrected me through this book. But for me, a lot of people come to me because they see all the plates that I'm holding or attempting to hold up, and they say, "Man, how do you balance it all?" And this is what I've said, Pastor Touré, and obviously your book has rebuked me. But prior to you reading your book, I said balance is a myth. I said there's no such thing as balance. It's impossible to balance. What you can do is be your best in these different areas at different moments and different seasons and try to make it all work universally. But at the same time, I just don't think that there's balance. And so, one of the things that I have found through reading your book is what you just said: balance is not what we think it is. So you went on this journey, you did the research, you poured your heart into this. When you say balance is not what we think it is, what is it?
I think that the majority of us believe when a person comes to you and says, "Man, I just need balance in my life," what they're asking you for, or what they're referring to, is the ability to accurately divvy themselves up to all of the responsibilities or things that they believe are important to them. So they're basically asking, how do I give pieces of myself to all of these things that are important? I've got 25 things that are important, but there's only one of me. And so I'm trying to figure out how to divide myself up into 25 pieces, worthy pieces, and give them to others. And that's not balance. I can't give 25%. I can't give 10% of me to my wife, Sarah. I can't give 10% to my kids. I can't give 10% to our church. I can't give 10% to our investors or to our businesses. How that's not fair. So what balance is about is becoming all of yourself, becoming your whole self, and then giving your whole self to all of those various things at any given moment. And so that's what it's about. It's really about, becoming and then giving your best to everything that's important. Now, there are disciplines, there are rules. You can't be every place at the same time. And so, to your earlier point, I'm not quite sure that you were off, about how you saw things. You do have to be sensitive enough to know what needs what the most at a given point, but you still want to be able to bring all of yourself to whatever it is that you are responsible for in that moment.
So if I juxtapose the two of us, it's like you have three times every category that I have. I got one church, you got two. I got one business and three in my head. You got 17. I got three kids. I think y'all got six.
6.
So for you, as you were entering in, you found it, you figured it out. But as you were entering into this attempt to find balance, what were some of the trial and errors that you found? Maybe some things that you thought you should do in an effort to find balance that actually were counterproductive to what you are actually going for. Because I think that a lot of people listening and tuned in want balance, and maybe they are going to try this or try that to find it. What are some warnings you would give us up front as we attempt to do this?
Oh, absolutely. That's a phenomenal question. So I was of the old mindset of you've just got to give pieces of yourself to others, to those that are important to you. So what I would do is I would try to do just that. There would be days. So we've got 6 kids, as you mentioned, and there would be days where I said I am going to spend one-on-one time with all of our 6 kids in a day, sometimes maybe even 2 days, right? And that seems noble. Well, you can spend an hour here, take this one to lunch, walk this around the park, throw the football with this one, and do all that. And I tried that, And what was bad was by the time I got to 4 or 5, man, they were getting a zombie version of daddy. They were getting, I mean, it was so bad that it actually, I shouldn't have, it was worse after than it was in the activity. And so I learned that no, you can't do it like that, because you didn't give them. You love your daughter, but you didn't give your daughter your best you. You gave her leftovers. You gave her fumes. You love your son. You love your wife, and you were there. You were present, but all of you was not present. And as a result of it, it made the experience really counterproductive, because it's all about memories, and that necessarily was not memorable. And so I would say, and this again is why the theme of the book is so important. You know, it's a mistake to try to do it all. Instead of trying to do it all, be all of you, and then schedule meaningful quality moments with the people you love, with the people you lead, with the people you're in partnership with, so that each moment can be meaningful. That can play itself out in the business space as well. Taking on meetings, you know, you need to talk to this employee, you know, you need to talk to this volunteer, you know, but you're at your best, and they're driving for the meeting, and they need it. It's a legitimate need, but you're not ready. And so you got to take care of you first. You become whole. And then from your place of wholeness, then you move about and engage in these various areas of responsibility.
I think that's probably the biggest hallmark takeaway that I took away from reading your book. Because when you think about the pursuit of balance, you're usually thinking about others. You're usually thinking about how can I positively impact my kids, my wife, my customers, my church. And what you're challenging us is to first forget them for a second and look inward. In order to achieve the balance that you think that they need, the journey starts with you putting yourself in order. Do I have that accurately?
You do, very much so. And we have to remember that we are a limited resource. We're a limited resource. And the challenge with those of us who are, you know, creative and ambitious is that we have unlimited vision. So we've got unlimited vision, unlimited passion, unlimited desire, and sometimes, quite frankly, unlimited opportunity at times, you know, but that does not, disqualify the fact that you and I are ourselves a limited resource. And so if I am a limited resource, and my goal and my vision is to bring the best of myself to those things that I'm called to, then I have to now manage the resource of me, so that I can be a resource to those that I'm called to touch.
So, where do you want us to begin? Where do you want us to first check a box on this journey? First inward, that will later show up in the way that we come through for people outwardly.
I want you to give yourself permission to be selffull. Now, notice I said selffull. I didn't say selfish. I said selffull. The difference between being selfish and selffull is selfish is when you are just so centered on self that the whole world revolves around you, and ultimately you have nothing to give to others because you're so consumed with self. Selfish is from a deficit mentality. It is to say that I have to be all about me because I don't have enough. It's actually greedy to be selfish. Selffull is to be mindful of self. A lot of times in our desire to be generous and good people, we are mindful of others, but not mindful of our own selves. And so I think that the first step is to give yourself permission to prioritize you, recognizing that loving yourself first and prioritizing yourself first does not take away from those you love. It's actually the exact opposite. It is to give your best to those you love.
Yes, and you gave not an analogy, it was a true story where you and your wife, Pastor Sarah, you all were in, I believe, Texas, and you saw another couple. They were riding motorcycles, and that sparked a thought to you all like, man, we should get some bikes and we should cruise like that. And ultimately, life got busy again, and it never materialized for the two of you, but you kept that passion, and then you got a bike, and then you started riding, and you started finding those rides therapeutic, and it allowed you to come back home and show up, as you say, more a better version of yourself for your family. So for people who can't afford a Harley, what would that look like for some of us, that alone time? And when you first started doing it, how did you make sure that it was not offensive to your wife, not offensive to your kids, that you said, yo, I just need to go be by myself for a second?
Yeah, it was a struggle. I'm not going to pretend. It was a struggle at first because I used to ride and she wouldn't come with me, and I would actually feel guilty because I was having an amazing time. I mean, it was absolutely wonderful. And then I would feel guilty. But then when I came home, man, the version of me that walked through the door was loving and patient, and I had energy and time. The kids want something, I say, well, sit down, let's go over here and talk. So I realized that it was actually not hurting them, it was helping them. And I communicated. Sometimes I would say, and I'll even say to the kids today, I say, hey, baby, or if I'm talking to my wife, or hey, children, if I'm talking to the kids, I'm like, listen, daddy's going away for 2 or 3 days, but I promise you, the version of daddy that you get back, that walks through that door after this time, is going to be well worth the 1 to 2 to 3 days that you had to give up. And so that's I had to overcome that struggle, and then I communicated that, and I delivered on that. When I walked through the door, listen, if I didn't get enough time, I better had pretended like I got enough time, because I was going to be Santa Claus coming through that door. Now, for me, it was, it varies. Sometimes it's riding the motorcycle. Sometimes it's getting in the car, driving down to to the park, to the beach. I'm in California, so the beach or mountains. But it can literally be anything. You can find a place in your home, a place in your neighborhood. You can take a walk. You have to find what does it for you. Where what do you need to see, experience? What environment do you need to be in order for you to feel peaceful? For some people, it literally, this might sound crazy, but it literally might be going into a restaurant or a crowded square, believe it or not, because that individual is stimulated by people and they like to people watch, or maybe walk by some shops. Don't have to shop, but just walk by the shops. And so you have to find what works for you. And this is not limited to those who have a lot of money. In fact, one of the ways perhaps to even grow your money is to get balance, is to find balance so that you can put yourself in a position to become the best you, which will bring out the best thoughts, the best relational value, the best ideas, and that could actually take you financially to the next level.
How did the conversations go with your wife? Because we have a lot of couples listening, because I'm sure as you have learned the benefits of it, you shared that with your wife. And then, so now you both need to be scheduling these moments of awareness, of alone, which we can talk about later, because you went and unpacked the word alone and made it something I didn't even know it was in your book. But you both now have to schedule these things. So for the couples listening, how do we navigate that so that we both get what we need?
Well, I think that both my wife and I, as I believe is the case with most couples, are all about being better. We want to better ourselves. We feel like, God isn't finished with us, and we can always do better. And so when I shared with Sarah, about how this was really blessing me, she was like, "Oh, that's great for you," but the light bulb went off for her too. You know what I mean? And she like, "Oh, this is and now she does it. And as a couple, quite frankly, sometimes, you're excited about you taking your 2 or 3 days away, and you want everybody to sacrifice, the kids to sacrifice for your balance retreat, and your wife to sacrifice. But then when they flip the script on you, and, and you got to be sitting around, making dinner, and getting the kids ready and everything, you need some balance time to get posture. But no, we understand how important it is, in our love for each other and our desire to see each other be the best that we both can be. We encourage and support one another in whatever it takes. I just sent Sarah away for a few days, fairly recently, up the coast. We missed, fairly recently, up the coast. We missed her. I miss her. Listen, there is a sacrifice. I ain't gonna lie. I love my wife, and I love it. It ain't no ball and chain with me. I don't even understand where that even came from, or maybe if I was with the wrong person. Anyway, you understand what I'm saying? But I want her to thrive and do well. And so I think that when you love someone, you want to serve them in that way. And here is the thing: you actually get the benefit from paying the price, because when you let that person get what they need, when they come back, first of all, they're thankful that you gave them permission to get what they needed. And second of all, so you're going to get that gratitude, reciprocity. And then second of all, who they come back as. It's almost selfish, to be honest with you, but you have to be willing to sacrifice up front to get what will benefit you later.
Now, you've encouraged us to find whatever version of away time, balance retreat that we need, that charges our batteries. How do we maximize that time once we figure it out, once we schedule it, once we go for the ride or go to the destination? How do we maximize that time and make sure that we're doing what we need to do in those moments to return back to our life full and ready to engage and be the total version of ourselves that we need to be?
That's a phenomenal question, and I'm so glad you bring it up, because simply getting away is not enough. Simply going to wherever you go, that the place that nourishes your soul or whatever, is not enough, because you got to remember, we live in a rhythm of distraction. We live in a world where everything is noisy and we're bombarded by noise. So you can be away but not be away. And so you have to be intentional. The moment that you leave that house, or the moment that you, walk into that secret place, walk into that room, the moment that you do that, you have to make up your mind that I am pursuing balance, and I'm going to fight against the text messages. I'm going to fight against the phone calls. And those are all outer disruptions, but I'm also going to fight against the inner disruptions. I'm going to fight against those thoughts that come and try to pull me out of this moment. I'm going to be present in the moment. So I think it's important to protect your process to balance, because I'll give you an example, and I'll be honest with you. On one of my last trips, I only had 3 days. And the first day I did great. The second day, work, it snuck in there on me, man. And before I knew it, I was robbed of day 2. I got it back together for day 3. And I'll be honest, I didn't leave that retreat as refreshed and as balanced as I would have had I not, quite frankly, become disloyal to myself and my process. So it happens. It is a fight. You have to be intentional, and you have to vociferously guard that time.
Man, that's good. Thank you for your transparency. I think that's going to help a whole lot of people. And so I'm also curious, it just popped into my head, because we like to keep it real and relative here. So let's say somebody's listening and they're like, this is what I needed. I'm going to get the book. I'm going to follow the instructions, and I'm going to start this process. And they bring it to their spouse. Their spouse don't get it. Their spouse has a little pushback. But what about this? What about that? And what the spouse is saying could be super relevant, because we all have this menu of responsibilities. And it's the reason we've been trying to seek balance in the first place. And so, because you have, like I said, businesses, churches, family, did those thoughts ever prevent you from pursuing, because you're like, man, I can't, who's gonna preach? Who's gonna run the business meeting? How are all the kids gonna get to school? Did you ever let those thoughts in another season of your life prevent you from getting to balance? And if that's the case, how did you overcome that guilt of being responsible for so many things and not wanting to let those things fall and not wanting to let those people down?
The answer to your question is absolutely. There is an inherent guilt associated with balance, particularly in the beginning. because you do have the reason why you need balance. So the reason why people are pursuing balance is because they have all of these responsibilities that they have to manage. And so in the early stages of it, one of the things that kept me out of balance, or what I call in the book imbalanced, was I failed to give my soul what it needed, because I didn't want to let this person down. I didn't want to let this organization down. I didn't want to let, this situation down. And I had to realize I am actually letting them down because I'm not at my best. And I had to take control. And it is an act of faith, to be honest with you. Some people think that the hardest steps of faith are steps out, or steps towards something, or steps moving towards something. And those, leaps of faith, they're difficult. But one of the things that I've learned about faith is sometimes faith, that the hardest thing to do in faith is to stop. It is to stop and to believe that if you stop, your world will not crumble. For me, I'm a man of faith. Scripturally, the word talks about Sabbath rest. And what's interesting is that word Sabbath is about rest, but the Hebrew word for Sabbath, a better translation of that word, is not to rest. Watch this. It is to cease, to stop. And so it takes more faith sometimes to stop than it does to go, because the notion is, if I stop my world will not continue to spin. And that is absolutely crazy. It is an illusion to believe that if I am commanded, as a man of faith, if I am commanded to cease, then why would I not believe that the God who gave me the life and the responsibilities and the family and the ministry and the business, all these things, cannot sustain that while I sustain myself? And so I had to come to this place of faith, in all honesty, to believe that I can stop, I can delegate, I can create systems and structure. And this is really important. I can create systems and structures ahead of time, so that when I need what I need, when I need balance, when I need rest, it's no problem. I can press a button. See, oftentimes that's another thing. We don't build our lives for breaks. We build our lives around our involvement, and that's a problem. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely, I struggled with it, but I overcame it by realizing that there were a couple of illusions. One, it was an illusion to think that my presence meant productivity, because that's not true. Presence and productivity aren't the same thing, right? And then I had to overcome the other illusion that said that if I stopped, things would fall apart. And I realized in some instances that when I delegated, not only were things sustained, but some things went to another level because I took my hand off of it and fresh hands came on it and pushed that thing forward.
I mean, you just said a whole lot just in that one little soundbite that sent my brain in 7 different directions. Well, one of the things that jumped out was you haven't built your life for breaks. Whoa. Most of us haven't. I can raise my hand. It feels at times overwhelming in so many different directions. So how do we do that? What have you done to build your life in such a way that allows for breaks to be had? Because like you said, that's what's going to stop a lot of people, because they feel things will collapse, whether that's family, at their 9 to 5, their business, or if they work in ministry. I can't take a break. Everybody needs me. And it's because, like you just said, we haven't built our life for the breaks. How do we do that?
Well, I'll take it from an individual who's not as busy as you and I are, all the way up to someone who runs organizations. So the person who is not, doesn't have to run companies or whatever, but is responsible to their family, what have you, them building their life for breaks is about communication. It is to establish early on and to communicate and establish early on that in order for me to be my best self, there are going to be times where I will need to pull away for a day, for 2 days or 3 days. What do we need to do as a family? What do we need to do as a couple? What do we need to do, as a household, to ensure that not only I get that, but you get that as well. So I think it starts with communication, and then together we'll say, okay, well then, yeah, if that's going to be the case, then maybe we work these things out Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays, and so that will give you Saturday to, so there's a planning that goes into it. I think if you're running a company or you're running an organization, I think it's about delegation and training and building a culture in your organization around not only your rest and your breaks, your road to balance, but that becomes a culture in your organization. So if you have a large organizations where you have middle level management, then you basically set that same thing up for your middle managers, that idea, that thought, that culture, and then encourage your middle managers to staff and to communicate and lead with that same paradigm. First of all, that's going to do wonders for your company, because you're going to have a very healthy company. A healthy company is a profitable company, and you're going to be able to retain your employees as well, because they're working in an environment that cares about them, not just the bottom line.
Man, that's good stuff. That's good stuff, man. I got to write that down myself. Appreciate that, Pastor Touré. So, what was the biggest benefit on the other side of this journey? We've talked a lot about some of the things that we have to push past at the front end of this journey, but you did that. You pushed past it. You've gone on this process, and you figured out how to arrive at the destination of balance. What's been the biggest benefit on the other side after you arrived there?
Amazing. The biggest benefit would have to be one word, and that word is consistency. I have been consistently at the top of my game. Man, I could almost cry thinking about this. As a husband, as a father, as a leader, as a businessman, I believe that consistency is the evidence of maturity. It's one thing to be okay sometimes, be okay every once in a while, hit something out of the park once. It's another thing to position yourself and align yourself to have a series of wins. Again, I'm a man of faith, that you take it back to Psalm 1, where it talks about that man in Psalm 1 and 3, who shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in every season, whose leaf will not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. That whole word is about consistency. So balance has allowed me to consistently be the man that I want to be, the man of God that I want to be, the father that I long to be, the leader, the businessman. It is a beautiful thing to progressively become better and to become better consistently.
Man, good stuff. So the new book is called Balance. It hits stores April 26th. Can you tell everybody what they will find in these pages when they pick up their copy?
I have never been more excited, proud, and assured about what's in that book. I'll also say I have never gone through the hell, if I might say that word, to produce something. And what I have learned is that the greater the opposition and obstacle, the greater the impact of whatever it is you're doing. I believe that people are going to be able to, first of all, truly find balance. It's going to demystify balance. It's going to make balance accessible, right? And when you finish that, you're going to be like me. You're going to be consistent. You're going to be balanced. I think it's going to help you to identify quickly when you are imbalanced. In fact, there's a chapter called The 5 Signs of Imbalance. And so you're going to be able to easily determine when you're at your best and when you're not at your best, when you're balanced and when you're not balanced. And you're going to have practical tools. There will be practical applications that will get you on your way. You're going to learn how to protect balance. Once you find balance, how do I protect it? I'm excited. You're going to learn about how to find your equilibrium after a setback. You have a chapter called Balance After the Blow. Again, a step-by-step guide to get yourself back in the game when life throws deals you something, deals you a blow that knocks you out of it. This resource is a blessing, and I'm so excited to have been the vessel that God chose to use to bring this message to the masses.
Thank you so much for that. And I want to ask one final question as we exit, and you would be a subject matter expert on it, because we do have some families, as we talked about how to find this balance in these discussions with spouse and children. And there are some families more now than ever that are blended. And so it's not just wife, children, but then there's the other parent of some children. And now all these other conversations need to happen as well. So, what's your advice for the blended family as they strive to find balance as well?
I think that the beautiful thing about a blended family is that you get to become more than you would have been in the traditional setting. What do I mean by that? I mean that the children that aren't yours, and sometimes even the other people that aren't yours, bring experiences, perspectives, and I'll be honest with you, not all of them are necessarily positive. But even when it is a challenging thing or a difficult thing, there's something about rising to the occasion of a challenging and difficult situation that at the end of the day makes you better. You love better in blended families, because if you love that spouse, you love everything connected to that spouse, and you will do everything in your power with that child. And sometimes, if it is appropriate, or if it is your situation, with the individual, the other parent or what have you. So I just like, if you see it not as a struggle, not as a difficulty, not as a handicap, but an opportunity to grow in patience, to grow in insight and understanding, to be a broader version of yourself. And the broader you are, the bigger impact you'll have in life. And quite frankly, the broader a person, the more successful the person typically, because they're able to move and function and operate in a variety of environments. If you don't see it as a hindrance, if you don't see it as this handicap, but see it as an opportunity to become more, then I think just that paradigm shift will allow you to extract the treasures in a blended family.
Well said. If people want to keep up with you and your ministry and all you have going on, how do they find you?
My website is toureroberts.com. Everything is there. I'm on all of the social media platforms at Touré, Toure Roberts. And of course, if you want information about balance, you can go to thebalancebook.com.
Awesome. We'll be sure to have everything mentioned in the show notes of this episode. Pastor Touré, thank you so much for coming by the His and Her Money Show again, sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. God bless you and your family.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show. I told you that jewels and nuggets were coming your way, so hopefully you took my advice and you took good notes. And do your friends and your family a favor by sharing this with them so that they can get the same knowledge as well. Remember, we have episodes and knowledge just like this and more at our website, hisandhermoney.com. That's all we got for this time, guys. It's been great. Until next time. Peace.